Hello and welcome to another edition of Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Vanelli. Now, joining me today is my co-host, Angela Andrieux. Hello, Angela.
Hey, Vanelli. Good to be here today. Thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome. So, what is our topics today?
So today is our weekly wrap-up where we go over the topics that we discussed earlier in the week. So the topics that Vanelli shared with you were about underwater photography and how to change color tones in an image. And the topics that you went over with me were street photography and how to fine-tune specific colors. So you might think that what Vanelli's going to talk about is the same as what I'm going to talk about. And actually, we're going to be working with two separate tools in different areas. So hopefully those are both fun and enjoyable for you.
Well, that's awesome. I know I'm trying to. There we go. So we actually have a new. Let me see if I'm hoping it works. We have a new screen. Let's see. Yep, there it is. So
awesome.
Everyone's able to see the comments that people are posting. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you guys here. And this way, Angela, you can see it too, and then you can help answer those comments.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah, so now I'm making sure I get that whole the switcher all situated here. All right, Angela, how would you like to go first?
I can do that. I'm ready to go.
All right. Good, we're sharing your screen.
Yep. All right, so the first topic we're going to go over today that we talked about in depth earlier this week is street photography and why most people choose to use black and white processing for street photos. You certainly can process your photos in color for street photography, but there's a reason that a lot of people really default back to going to black and white. And one of the big reasons is it's timeless. It enhances drama, the contrast between the black and the white and all of the shades in between. It makes everything a little bit more dramatic. It removes and avoids distraction. So color can sometimes be very distracting. So by pulling the color out, you're able to really zero in on your subject, and it tells the story in a completely different way. Now, one of the things that makes black and white really attractive is it also gives it a legacy feel. And what I mean by that is a lot of the old masters, we're talking about Vivian Maier, Robert Capa, Henri Cartier-Bresson, they shot primarily in black and white. They did do some color work, some of them, but black and white is really where they focused a lot of their energy. And by emulating that, it really gives our work a legacy feel when we go in and we process our street photos in black and white. So in this image that I have here on the screen, this is actually captured by one of our executives, and it's somewhere in Asia. And I love the juxtaposition of the old and the new in this image. We have the rickshaw driver, which is a very old profession, in amongst these older buildings, but you can see them sitting, him or her, I can't quite tell, sitting there on their mobile phone. So you have this old and new, and it really tells a story about this moment in time. So by taking the color out of the image, we're really able to zero in on the subject, which is the person here and the rickshaw. Now let me go ahead and show you the original. There's our original image. The subject's a little bit blocked up back there in the shadows, and we have this really bright area here on the street. The light hitting the side of the building here is really bright. And by taking the color out and doing a few selective adjustments to really bring the light in on the subject and kind of darken down some of the contrast around them, it really makes the story come alive. So what do you think about that, Vanelli?
Oh, I think that was awesome. I like how you did that to where you're able to tell a different story just because you converted it to a black and white.
Yeah, it really just zeroes you in on the subject, and it just works really well for street photography. I would say for me, 95% of the time. Some of my street photos I process in color because the color sometimes is a big part of the story. But a lot of times by taking the color out, it removes those distractions and it really zeroes you in on that moment. And that's what street photography is all about, is capturing that moment in time, usually something to do with humanity, whether or not it has a person in the photo, but it's capturing some slice of life and some human aspect, which is really cool. And I love that kind of photography.
Well, that's awesome. I joke with you. My son always says, whenever my dad converts something to black and white, it means he totally screwed up the color. So he tells people my secret.
That's hilarious.
All right. Hey guys, please.
Not gonna lie, I have done that from time to time.
Say again.
Go ahead. I said, not. I won't lie. I have done that from time to time.
And again, we do have a new screen here. Hello, Brian Ford. So if you could, please jot down any questions you have. And I know there's a slight delay, but Angela and I will try to answer these questions before the end of the show. All right? All right, let me share my screen. So here we are. I'm going to work with the tone tool. So here we are before and after. All right? So let's come over to the history tool. And what I want to do is I'm going to start from the very beginning. And I'll show you how I'm going to walk through each of the steps. So this was the original image. And I just applied a real simple crop to it. And then I used the clean light. So from the templates, since I already have it set as one of my favorites, I just came over here and did I remove it? I did remove clean light. So I usually have clean light as one of my favorites. So let me go back over here. There we are, clean light template. And all the clean light template did was what I would normally do. So I would normally make sure Accent AI, here we go. I would normally make sure Accent AI is used. I'd come down here, adjust the black and the white points. So let me do it right about here. There we go. And then, now and again, what I did, Angela, before is I created this the way I'm doing it now, and then I saved it as my default. So let me come over here real quick. And now it's telling me it was shot with a Canon camera, and I could use different modes of that Canon camera, which I think is pretty cool. So, and the neat thing about this right here, the profile, is once you set it, you can set it as a default, so every image that was shot with that particular camera will appear and have that same profile to it. All right? So let me get into the creative side. So toning was added slightly, very, very little. We're going to go to an extreme with it. All right? And what I like about toning is we can attack just the shadows or just the highlights. Now this will be incredible, Angela, with what you did earlier this morning with the color wheel, and I know we're going to do this next week. That would be a really good tool to show people what toning is actually doing. So here we're going to apply it to the image. Now we have a choice to make. Typically in the highlights, they're usually gold tones, and the shadows are usually like bluish. Well, what if we decide to change it up a bit and more of a purplish tones in the shadows, and then for the highlights, what if we came in and added more blues in the highlights? And then from here, this is the balancing act. I could balance where there's more purple in the scene or there's more blue in the scene. But what we're trying to do here is make this to where it's a subtle change. To where if somebody sees this, they're not going to say, oh yeah, you already processed that. From this to this, they're not going to really notice it unless you actually show them the before and after image. So toning is going to give us that look and feel. It's like what they do in the movies when they add a color grading to the entire movie. We're doing the same thing with our photography. So if I shot a dozen of these images from the same day, the same shoot, the same lighting, I want it to look the same all the way through. This is where toning will give me that look and feel. And then of course we can finish it off a bit with applying a little vignette. I like that, and then dial it back a bit. And we're there. All right, here's before, and here's after. Now, Angela, what I am going to do is let's totally go to an extreme. All right, just so people can see the difference in it. Mm-hmm. So here I am again with the highlights. Let's say I go back to the gold tone and the highlights. There we go. Maybe even the oranges, a little orange. And then in the shadows, look at the jeans. Yeah, there we go. In the shadows, I'm going to go back to the bluish. There we go. And then I'm going to dial back some of the shadows themselves. And there we have it. Before and after. And we'll just do this tool. Before and after. All right, Angela, there we go.
That's awesome. It's so cool how you can so subtly but powerfully change the entire look and feel of the image just with those sliders. Now, you talked about this being a type of color grading, and we also have a different kind of color grading in our mood tool, correct?
All right. You know what? Let's look at our comments real quick first.
All right.
Fire away. Do you want to answer Pat's comment?
Let's see here. Pat says, should you never save an edit you've done as a template if you've done any masking in the edit? That's a really great question. I believe the masking doesn't carry over into the template. Is that the case, Vanelli? I honestly am not thinking that it is. I know that if you do a vignette and you move the center of your vignette, like place subject, that does get saved.
Exactly. Yeah, the masking doesn't, because obviously you can't tell. It can't,
right.
If you were masking out her jeans, for as an example, it can't tell from the next image, oh, these are jeans. What if she's wearing a dress?
Right.
AI is smart, but it's going to look at it's not going to replace us.
It's not as smart as you.
It's designed to help us. All right. So What do you have for us next?
All right. So the next one I have for you is an underwater photo. And what we really dove into in this image, no pun intended, was the HSL tool and how to precisely control individual colors. Now, there were several edits that we made to this image. Let me go ahead and show you here the before. Really flat, very typical of an underwater image where we've got a lot of kind of haziness and lost contrast. And then we were able to bring out a lot of beautiful color and detail. Now, we did go through and add some structure. We did some noise reduction here in the water around it to just give it that smooth quality. And then we did do some details here to bring out those details here on our turtle. But where we really got creative was in the color tool and down in this section called HSL. And what this is, so hue is going to be the color itself. So you can change colors more. So if you pick your red tones here, you can make your reds more pink or more orange. Go down to your greens, you can make your greens more yellow or more blue. So you can change the hue of individual color channels. Now, if we go into our saturation, that's the actual amount of pigment that you're putting on the image. So you can make your blues very, very bright, vibrant, or you can make them a little bit more subdued, reds, oranges, whichever color you want to target. And then in our luminance channel, that's the brightness and darkness of each color. So we can make that blue darker, make the blue lighter, make our oranges darker, lighter. That's the lightness, darkness of a color within the image. So what we did here was, let me show you the before. And you see, just went a little bit more dull, and then we were able to bring out more detail here on the back of the turtle. We were able to refine the colors here in the water, make them look a little bit more natural. And the biggest things we did here were here on the back of the turtle. And that's where we started looking at these oranges and yellows. So we adjusted the darkness of those oranges and yellows. You see if I bring those back up, watch what's happening to the back of the turtle and also up here in the reflections. It's changing how vibrant, how obvious those tones are. And same here with our yellows. We can brighten them up or darken them down to really get those colors to come alive. We also worked with them a little bit in saturation. We brought those oranges and yellows saturation up. We wanted to make them more obvious. These brown tones here actually have a little bit of red in them too. So you could even bring that up a little bit and make those colors a little bit more pronounced. So we could bring those up. We did a little bit of adjustments on our greens, cyans, and blues. That's going to be the colors out here in the water. And overall, here's the before color and after. So it just brought out some of those beautiful colors, helped us fine tune individual areas and individual color channels. And we were able to go from this overall effect to this.
Wow.
Such a huge difference. So
Yeah,
a lot of fun, a lot of great things you can do.
yeah, definitely a huge change. And it's funny
Yes.
because both of us chose that same image. And then in rehearsal, we realized, oh, let's do something a little bit different. So I'm going to take what you just did and go a little different route with it. We'll still use the
All right.
turtles. Now, have you done much underwater photography or no? You yourself?
Never.
I mean,
Never
I
done
live
it.
10 minutes away from the ocean. And
And I'm 20, so.
I'm not a very good swimmer. And B, I'm just worried that when the sharks see me, they'll call all their friends and say, hey, we're having Italian tonight. So I get a little nervous about that stuff. All right, let me share my screen. All right, so here we are with the turtle. And this image came from Chris from Unsplash. So I downloaded this from Unsplash. And here's before. So this is what was posted. And this, I mean, look how beautiful that is. And you can see some of the light rays coming through, which I didn't even add to that. But I like this. I like this a lot. I mean, I really wish I took this shot. I would definitely hang this up on my wall. Now, to give you a feel of how I started this edit, let's go over to the history tool again. And by the way, I'm liking how the history tool is tucked up on top and not way at the bottom.
Me too.
So here's the original image. And the template I applied originally was the reef template, which was okay. But man, this one right here, the dark, rich template, that really set the mood where I was heading. So I'm going to come under here. And notice under water collection, it's right here. In fact, I did save it as a favorite. So when you need to be inspired, check out those templates because that's what jump-started me on my edits. All right? So now that I have that set, I'm going to come over to Edit. And the first thing I've been noticing, and I'm sure you saw this too, Angela, is even though it says landscape, man, dehaze does a pretty good job at helping, look at that, and bringing back some of the hidden details in what we're doing.
Yeah, it actually does amazing things for underwater images.
Exactly. And because this kind of looks like a sky, I can take advantage of AI Sky Enhancer. Good. Look at this. We're getting off to a really good start. So I like how this is looking, but I want to come down, and I do want to add a vignette just to focus on the turtle. Look at that. Good, because the light, with the way the light source is coming, it's believable. It's coming here, and the light source is coming through. This should be a little bit darker, but look what that vignette does. It's drawing attention to the turtle itself. All right, and then, of course, here's where we have to be very careful. So we have structure AI and details. So I want to add a lot of detail to the scene, but if I go overboard, let's say boost, for example. Boost is going to add lots of, like an HDR type look to the image. It's really aggressive. It's very, very aggressive. And now all the imperfections from the water are being seen. And then the turtle is looking pretty good. Look at that. But I could come in here and just mask it and just paint it on the turtle. But then if I do that, I'm not taking full advantage of AI. So I'm going to back it off just a bit here. And I'm going to apply the amount. And then we'll come down to denoise and get very aggressive with it. There we go. And now with detail. So typically, look what small detail does. Small details are going to do just that. It's going to enhance. Look at all the detail in the turtle that it's bringing in. But then, again, look what it's doing to the backside. So we're going to balance that out a bit. I want to come in with medium details and take that small details, and let's apply a little negative value to it. The negative value is going to help out with any of this debris coming through. And this here is going to attack more of the turtle. Before, after, and then sharpen. I'm going to go to an extreme so you can see it. Sharpen is going to attack the blurry pixels in the scene. So I'm going to put sharpen right about here, and now look what it's doing again to the turtle in here. Give it a second, and then apply. So, and again, it's one of those things just like vignette. You don't want it, you don't want somebody to look at this and say, oh, that's way over sharpened. You want them to look at this and say, wow, that's a very sharp image. Now, we can come in here, and if you feel, this is like adding salt to your meal. Come down to the bottom. This, I'll drag it all the way to the left, and then I can decide how much of the effect do I want it to be applied. So if I went over the top, I could dial it back here. I actually like it right about there. I like it at full strength. And one last tool I like to use here is that super contrast. So now I'm going to target just the highlights. Look what that's, look how it's bringing back some of that color in the turtle. Midtones. And again, I'm balancing it. And of course, shadows. Right about there. And again, before and after. And there we have it. All right, Angela.
That's pretty amazing. Super contrast does so much for your shadows, highlights, bringing out details that, were kind of lost in some of those areas. It's such a great tool.
That's awesome. All right. So, again, please, if you have any questions, I'm so excited about this new little feature I added in here. Excuse me. Yeah, please just drop your comments or your questions in the comments, and we'll try to get to them. Now, we are excited, and we can mention just a couple things coming out in March. Will be version 1.2.
1.2.
So right now, yeah. So right now we're in update 1. So it's 1.01. In March will be the second update coming into Luminar, and there's going to be a lot of really cool extra stuff added. One was AI Sky Replacement 2.0. And I know our favorite texture and local masking got a little overhaul, which you'll really love. That you're going to be able to go back to transforming the textures. So that's going to be cool. And there's a lot of other things. When we get closer, we'll talk to you more about it. And like you said, Angela, once we get it in our hands, we want to play with it, work with it, and see how far we can push it, right? And then offer suggestions.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to go too much in depth on what we've been told so far. I want to play with it first, make sure I know what it can do before I make any promises to you. But I'm pretty excited about what's coming.
Awesome. Let's see if we have one more question. So, Angela, the reason why I'm having you read them is I don't have my contacts in.
Well, whenever you switch the screen back to me and I'm leaning over looking at the other screen, it's super tiny on my little screen, but I'll do it. All right. I wish the tools that have a lot of sliders would have their own overall opacity slider. That's a great idea, Pat. What I would recommend is send that in as a feature request to our support team. Send an email to support@skylum.com. Let them know what you would like to have different, so that opacity slider on each tool would be fantastic. And then also how you would put that to use, what that would help you accomplish, like a couple of examples, because that's what really gets their attention, is when they see a problem that they can solve. So make sure you give us as much information for a feature request as possible. They'll make sure it gets on our list, it gets in front of our developers, and it'll get considered for future development.
Well, that's awesome, Angela. Well, great. All right, now, do you have any plans for the weekend?
I do. Making a little impromptu trip, so that'll be nice. Get out of Dodge for a little bit and see some family. So, yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I don't remember.
What about you?
Yeah, was it 2 weeks ago? I stayed at the resort. Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Was it already
every time I try to go somewhere just to, we could do our job anywhere. Knock on wood. We could broadcast. We were broadcasting from Egypt, so that was pretty cool. So I figured, okay, well, I might as well come here to a beautiful Florida resort. Try to just walk outside. There's the ocean. It was awesome, but the internet was so bad I couldn't do any broadcasting from there. So, I stayed for a couple days, relaxed, did a lot of writing. I think this weekend, I think I may do. I've been pushing off some projects. My son's grandmother, on his mother's side, I don't know why, gave him these really unique figurines. I think you'd give to a girl, but she gave them to him. So I don't know if they're they're expensive, or I don't know what they are. So what I may do is just set up a tent and do a massive product. I ordered a little Lazy Susan, the little circle where you spin it. So to put that on there, take some pictures. So if I'm feeling up to it this weekend, I may just do that as a project, just to get out there and get used to shooting it. Something that's not usually in my wheelhouse, and I'm not usually a product photographer, but I have a couple ideas, and I thought that'd be pretty cool, and I could share them with us. So we'll see where the weekend goes. I'm hoping to get out and do some shooting. So we'll see.
Yeah. I would like to get out and do some shooting as well. Been spending way too much time behind the computer. Not that we'd mind spending time with you guys. You guys are a lot of fun, but
yes,
we all like to get out with our cameras.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. And then next week we have some really, really cool stuff to share with you, which you'll really like. And we may have a couple little goodies to send out to you. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining. Angela, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Vanelli. It was great to see everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend wherever you are and whatever you choose to do.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I'll see you at the next coffee break.